In the event of a nuclear war, the destructive power of nuclear weapons is difficult to comprehend. The blast, heat, and radiation would result in mass casualties and widespread devastation. The immediate effects of a nuclear explosion would include a blinding flash of light, intense heat, and a shockwave that could level buildings and cause severe injuries. The resulting radioactive fallout would contaminate the surrounding area, rendering it uninhabitable for decades. Even survivors of the initial blast would face long-term health effects, including an increased risk of cancer and genetic mutations in future generations. The fear of nuclear war was once a prevalent concern during the Cold War, and the threat of a nuclear exchange between nations still exists today. The use of nuclear weapons should be avoided at all costs, as the consequences of such an event would be catastrophic and long-lasting. The idea of a global economic collapse is a terrifying one. It would result in a widespread loss of jobs, skyrocketing inflation, and a global depression that could last for years. The stock market would crash, businesses would fail, and governments would struggle to provide basic services. The collapse would be triggered by a significant event, such as a global war or a financial crisis, and the effects would be felt worldwide. In such a scenario, people would struggle to meet their basic needs, and the gap between the rich and poor would widen. Governments would face difficult choices, such as whether to prioritize paying off debt or providing basic services to their citizens. The collapse of the global economy would have far-reaching consequences that would affect people's lives for years to come. It is a reminder of the importance of economic stability and the need for responsible financial management to prevent such a catastrophic event from happening. A mass refugee crisis is a daunting and heartbreaking situation. It occurs when large groups of people are forced to flee their homes due to conflict, natural disasters, or persecution. These refugees often face a difficult and dangerous journey to find safety, with many risking their lives to cross borders or travel by sea. Once they arrive in a new country, refugees may face a lack of resources and limited access to basic necessities such as food, shelter, and medical care. The scale of a mass refugee crisis can be overwhelming, with governments and aid organizations struggling to provide assistance to those in need. The crisis can also have long-lasting effects on the host countries, as they may face social and economic challenges, including strained resources and cultural tensions. The mass refugee crisis is a reminder of the importance of international cooperation, empathy, and support for those in need. It is a human tragedy that requires a compassionate and coordinated response to alleviate the suffering of millions of displaced people around the world. Cyber warfare is a growing threat in our increasingly interconnected world. It involves the use of digital attacks to disrupt or destroy critical infrastructure, steal sensitive information, or spread misinformation. The consequences of a successful cyber attack can be devastating, with potential outcomes ranging from financial losses to loss of life. For example, a cyber attack on a country's power grid could result in widespread blackouts, disrupting communication, transportation, and essential services. Cyber attacks on hospitals or emergency services could lead to delayed or incorrect medical treatment, potentially causing harm to patients. In addition to its immediate effects, cyber warfare can also have long-term consequences, such as eroding public trust in critical institutions and systems. As technology continues to advance, so too does the threat of cyber attacks, making it crucial to prioritize cybersecurity and invest in preventative measures. The threat of cyber warfare is a chilling reminder of the importance of vigilance and preparedness in the face of rapidly evolving digital threats. Widespread famine is a haunting and tragic reality that can result from a combination of factors such as war, drought, and economic instability. It occurs when a large population does not have access to enough food, leading to malnutrition and starvation. Famine can have devastating effects on communities, including high mortality rates, displacement, and long-term health consequences. It can also lead to social unrest, as people struggle to meet their basic needs and compete for limited resources. Famine is a slow and painful process that can take months or even years to develop, with those affected often suffering in silence before receiving any help. In some cases, Famine can be exacerbated by political or economic factors, such as corruption or unequal distribution of resources. The consequences of widespread famine can be felt for generations, with children who survive suffering from stunted growth and developmental delays. It is a haunting reminder of the fragility of our food systems and the need for responsible management and equitable distribution of resources to prevent such a catastrophe from occurring. Terrorism is a frightening and violent tactic used by individuals or groups to intimidate or coerce societies or governments. It can take many forms, including bombings, shootings, and cyber attacks, and can cause mass casualties and widespread fear. The consequences of terrorism can be devastating, with lives lost and communities shattered. In addition to the immediate effects, terrorism can also have long-lasting consequences, such as increased surveillance and restrictions on civil liberties. The fear of terrorism can lead to a sense of insecurity and a loss of trust in public institutions. It can also perpetuate cycles of violence, as governments may respond with military action that can result in further civilian casualties and radicalization. The threat of terrorism is ever present, with the potential for attacks occurring anywhere in the world. It is a reminder of the importance of international cooperation, intelligence sharing, and effective counterterrorism measures. The fight against terrorism requires a careful balance between protecting public safety and preserving fundamental human rights and values. Biological warfare is a terrifying form of warfare that involves the use of disease-causing organisms, such as viruses or bacteria, to harm or kill people, animals, or crops. It is often difficult to detect and can spread quickly and silently. The consequences of a biological attack can be devastating, with potential outcomes ranging from widespread illness and death to long-term environmental damage. Biological warfare can also have long-lasting effects on the health and well-being of affected populations, as well as the economic and social stability of affected regions. It is a form of warfare that violates international law and basic human ethics, and its use is strictly prohibited by the Biological Weapons Convention. However, the threat of biological warfare remains, with advances in technology making it easier for individuals or groups to create and distribute biological agents. The fight against biological warfare requires a combination of international cooperation, intelligence sharing, and effective public health measures. The potential consequences of biological warfare are haunting, reminding us of the need for vigilance and preparedness in the face of emerging threats.